So if you include an alternative ending in your film, that's a major risky move, and it can only pay off if done right. Right now, the #1 streaming movie on Netflix actually does include one, and it seems to be a clapback to some of the criticism the filmmaker has faced in the past. Tyler Perry's Straw, on the surface, looks like this is going to be a strong black woman struggle fest. This is why people said they were not going to watch it. Instead, we get a subversion on that trope, and there's this last-minute, shocking truth that's dropped at the end. Typically, you will film an alternative ending for your movie, right? You've got everybody there. This is the time to do it. You just don't include it in the film. You'll see them in director's cuts or long after the movies come out and everyone's had a good long chance to see it. It'll come up in an interview or it'll be included in the extras that you can buy online or that come with your subscription. This gives us as an audience a chance to fully sit with the weight of both the director and the screenwriter's choices, which ultimately help us believe in the character's choices within the plot. And on the flip side, if you include too many sequences where the audience realizes, oh, that didn't really happen, or this was in their head, or whatever, you lose their trust. But somehow, Tyler Perry includes an alternative ending and manages to solidify that audience trust. Psychological thrillers tend to have major spoilers, and I will be talking about the absolute main spoiler in the whole film. So if you want to watch it without any spoilers, stop, save this video, and come back later. If not, you've been warned. When we meet and follow our protagonist, Janiah, through what we believe to be the worst day of her life, we are hit with so much realism. We can almost see and feel the fact that there's no AC. We're watching as her pressed out hair curls throughout the day. We hear and feel these sounds of the cashier and the long line and all the work she has to do, and then how precious these medicines are to her child. Janiah is just desperately trying to hold down her job, get that money to her child so she can have lunch, and we're along for that ride from minute one. And we know from each scene, from the context clues we're getting, that this is real life. There's no magical fix here. But what we don't know is that this isn't the worst day of her life. This is the second worst day of her life, because the worst day of her life was yesterday when her baby died. So this whole day that we're witnessing, this is a mental breakdown of a woman who has lost her child. She took an imaginary child to school. She is stressing out over a lunch for a kid that no longer is here. She is working a job to pay for medicine that the child doesn't even need. So no, this isn't a story about a strong, suffering black woman, but a fragile human. And we as the audience are shocked because this is a real twist on the black suffering trope. And to our surprise, we are seeing a black woman who is seen and protected and advocated for by other black women in her community. As Janiah gets down to her last straw, we have seen her survive a robbery. She's killed her abusive boss. She has fought for this check. She's now accidentally holding a bank full of black ladies hostage. She's mentally on edge and fixated on caring for this child that is no longer here. So here we are in the third act, inside the bank, knowing there's a racist, violent cop outside who said he was going to find a legal way to kill her. And she knows she needs to surrender. She knows she needs to take the help from bank manager Nicole, and she's frozen. All the professional black women in this situation know that while the forces say they want to do a peaceful transfer, there's just too much on the line because Janiah has broken the law. And we all know what happens to black people who break any kind of law or even perceive to have broken a law. We are expecting the realism of this situation to win out, right? She's not walking out of this alive. She's holding a bank hostage with a pew-pew. And in this final negotiating call between her and the FBI that's trying to take over the investigation and Detective Raymond, who's just trying to connect and see Janiah, she is reminded, your child's dead. You don't need to do all of this. You need help. And then we get a film sequence in which she does not surrender in time, where the FBI comes in and flash grenades the place. And they take Nicole and drag her away, and Janiah is shot and killed. Sherry Shepard's character, Nicole, does not walk out of the bank hand in hand, hands up in surrender, protecting Janiah. Instead, Nicole has to watch the FBI override the holistic, safe evaluation and intervention that the police officers were trying to do, and she has to watch as yet another black woman dies. We can already sense watching this Detective Raymond's sadness and disappointment as a mentally ill, grieving mother does not get the help she needs. Watching that scene unfold, I was like, well, I knew it. The community couldn't save her. Same old violence is used. Another tragedy in a long line of tragedies. Tyler Perry in this film isn't interested in what has happened, but what could happen and what he has already seen black women do. What we see is people stand up in their professional capacity, in their personal capacity, and do what is potentially the unthinkable in a situation like this. We have Nicole, who refuses to be rescued by the police. We have Detective Raymond, who attacks the racist cop and gets him sent away. Detective Raymond literally walks over to the bank and halts the FBI intervention by just standing in the line of fire to speak to Janiah. And we see the end unfold again, but different this time. Nicole and Janiah exit the building hand in hand, arms raised in surrender. By including both possibilities, Tyler Perry does give us, the audience, this wink and understanding that, yep, I know it's real. I know what is most likely to happen. I know what fear you hold about this particular realistic situation. He shows that scene play out that all the Black women in that story were rightfully terrified of. That connects us to the characters because we are sharing the same fears and we are clocking the situation for what it is. Then he gives us the out that so many other Black women in all of our different communities have given before. He gives Janiah a different ending through these women. And yes, she's going to prison. Yes, she's been arrested, but she's not been put in that car with excessive force. She leaves with her life. This is highlighting an agency that the strong, suffering, silent Black women are not often given. An agency that uses what power, what privilege, what connection for good for other people. Not because they're now mythical nurturers or angels, but because they are human. And that power exists even as a member of a professional workplace and even a racist policing system. None of them suffered in silence going through this ordeal. Tiana Taylor said that connecting to the ways that she is a woman and a mother also really helped her in this film because it affirmed a kind of power she has always known has existed, especially in a society that has classified Black women as just tough and hard survivors, not as people deeply connected to a whole complex community and people who have a softness and a life and a happiness and a joy in their family or their friends. Every day, Black women give each other alternative endings to a racist future. They hold doors open. They mentor other girls. They protect their own selves with boundaries that say, this is how much you can take from my peace or time. That is a key part of a much richer story of a very real Black struggle that has happened in this country. And it's often not shown in film because it makes audiences uncomfortable. You cannot justify having an apartheid state up to the 60s and then all the justifications that have come up to this day without creating a sort of comfort with Black suffering and this discomfort with Black resilience and then Black anger and joy. It's a rare thing to fairly portray and actually choose to show that complexity of Detective Raymond's anger or Nicole's bravery or Janiah's absolute depth of suffering and her need for other people. What's sad is that when I started this film, I could not have imagined it ending the way it did. I couldn't have even hoped for that kind of ending. In fact, I didn't hope for that kind of ending. But the thing with film is it can dare us to dream a little bit bigger for ourselves and the people around us. And you know what? I think the creative team knew that. They didn't want to provide an alternative hope for Janiah, but for us as well. I would love to hear your thoughts.